And we are following breaking news here on Merritt Street on this Sunday afternoon. Former President Donald Trump's Secret Service agents have opened fire after seeing a person with a firearm near his golf club in West Palm Beach, Florida. According to law enforcement this afternoon, the former president was golfing there today. The big headline, he is safe right now. These are live pictures outside of that golf course, again, West Palm Beach, Florida. Officials also say the suspect fled in an SUV and was later apprehended nearby by local police. We're told an AK-style firearm was recovered near the scene of Trump's golf course there. The golf course was partially shut down, we're told, as Trump, as he often does, was playing golf this morning, and agents, were told, were a few holes ahead of him when they noticed someone with a firearm. Apparently, that person appeared to push the muzzle of the rifle through a fence line, and that's when the agents saw the suspect, at least the end of a gun, and then they began shooting. So we know shots were fired in the former president's vicinity. We don't know how many. We don't know if the suspect actually shot toward Trump or not. These are all questions that we hope to have answered in a press briefing that is now 15 or so minutes past the time when officials there in West Palm Beach were supposed to brief the media. Trump's campaign and the Secret Service again saying that Trump is safe, and the agency says it is investigating that incident that occurred roughly around 2 o'clock Eastern time. Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, of course, in a very heated battle for the White House to become our next president. Kamala Harris taking to Twitter this afternoon, now X, saying, quote, "I have been briefed on reports of gunshots fired near former President Trump in his property in Florida, and I'm glad he is safe. Violence," she says, "has no place in America." Of course, these shots were fired roughly 2 months after the failed assassination attempt on our 45th president at an outdoor rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. Of course, at that point, the Secret Service became under intense scrutiny following that shooting. Questions abound how a gunman, a lone gunman in that case, was able to get in an elevated position on a rooftop that close to a former president who is the current Republican nominee to become the next president. Again, the headline coming out of the news right now, former President Donald Trump is safe after multiple shots were fired near his golf course in West Palm Beach, Florida. The FBI now calling today's shooting near the West Palm Beach golf course owned by Donald Trump an apparent assassination attempt on our former president. For more context and perspective, we want to bring in Jonathan Gilliam, former FBI, former Navy SEAL. Jonathan, we were speaking with you a lot since the last 2 months, but we met on air 2 months or so ago when we were talking about another failed assassination attempt. What do you make of this?
Well, the previous assassination attempt was a successful attack. He just missed the primary target. So it's important to remember that. In this case, I'm not sure, based on what we've heard, whether or not this individual actually took a shot or if it was the Secret Service that was shooting at him. We just know that shots were taken by the Secret Service. So, but regardless of that, the fact that the individual was in a position of concealment with a firearm in the vicinity of, and lying in wait in the vicinity of the former president and the nominee for the Republican Party, that adds up to an assassination attempt. They don't have to take the shot in order to be considered an attempted assassin. Right. So I think that's very important. I think it's also interesting that the individual had a vehicle, which some do and some don't, but this individual had a plan to escape and get out. And luckily, because of an individual that saw that car and got a license plate, they were able to, through technology, find that car very rapidly.
That's right. The suspect is now in custody. We should highlight the fact that Donald Trump is safe. You're looking at live pictures here on our screen. We have about a minute left in this quick commercial break, but I want to get more from you. You're at a golf course that's surrounded by shrubs. Talk to us about how difficult it is potentially to secure a scene like that.
Well, if the Secret Service was using drones, and I know they have individuals a couple holes ahead of Trump as he walks, or any protectee for that matter. So that's very important. I would like to see, because he is the nominee, I'd like to see this stepped up to a bit where they start to shut down parts of the golf course if he's on there, simply because he's had an attempt only 2 months ago, and now this second attempt. And I've heard other commenters saying that this is a copycat killing. You can't call that. It's an assassination attempt. That's what it was.
Jonathan, Gilliam, we're going to leave it at that for now. We're told that the suspect was lying in wait in between two different holes as Donald Trump was approaching. We know shots were fired this morning in the vicinity of Donald Trump's golf course in West Palm Beach, Florida. As he often does during the weekends, he was out playing golf. We're told the Secret Service was a few holes ahead of him this morning when apparently members of his Secret Service detail saw the muzzle of a rifle poke through a fence line. They immediately responded. It's our understanding at this point that they opened fire toward the suspect in that gun. Whether or not that suspect returned fire, we don't know. At this point, we're told that the suspect fled in an SUV, at which point local law enforcement tracked that suspect down. The suspect is now in custody. He was apprehended in a nearby county, we're told. We have more information now. Vice President Kamala Harris taking to X this afternoon to respond, and I'll read that to you now. Quoting now, "I have been briefed on reports of gunshots fired near former President Trump and his property in Florida. I am glad he is safe. Violence has no place in America." Again, that's a post on X from Vice President Kamala Harris, who, of course, as we know, is in a neck-and-neck battle with former President Donald Trump to see who can win the White House in the upcoming election in November. We are staying on top of this story. Again, the big headline right now, former President Donald Trump is safe. These are live pictures of his golf course in West Palm Beach, Florida this afternoon, where there is a massive investigation underway right now. We're told that the county sheriff's department in West Palm Beach will be briefing the media. When that happens, we will digest that information here behind the scenes and then bring you the very latest as we know it in upcoming live reports. Again, former President Donald Trump is safe after multiple shots were fired in his vicinity near his golf course in West Palm Beach, Florida. This comes just 2 months after the failed assassination attempt on his life in Butler, Pennsylvania. Questions abound about how a gunman at that rally was able to get in an elevated position and take multiple shots toward the president. We know at least one bullet grazed his ear. Of course, we know what happened there. We just are getting updated information from the sheriff in West Palm Beach, who says there was a witness who saw a suspect with a gun run from the bush line of the golf course and jumped inside of a black Nissan SUV. Well, that witness was in the right frame of mind to quickly grab his cell phone, and he took a picture of not only the suspect's car, but also the license plate. And he gave that information to local law enforcement. They were able to dispatch that license plate tag number through all of the state's license plate readers, and they got a hit on I-95 in nearby Martin County. At that point, we're told Florida local law enforcement initiated a stop on that vehicle. Again, what's being described as a black Nissan. They got the suspect at this point was in the vehicle. They were able to apprehend that suspect, and then they flew the witness from the golf course to the local jurisdiction there, I believe in Martin County off I-95. And the eyewitness was able to identify the suspect that police had apprehended as the same person that he saw run from the bush line after hearing shots fired at the golf course, and was able to make that connection. The FBI is now calling this incident an apparent assassination attempt on Donald Trump. Of course, this comes 2 months after another failed assassination attempt, when shots we do know were fired toward Donald Trump's direction and a bullet grazed his ear. A lot of questions came out of that shooting, and more, I'm sure, will come out of this one. We know today that the president was golfing on his course there in West Palm Beach. Again, these are live pictures that you're looking at on the screen there as the investigation continues. And as he often does during his weekend free time, he was not only playing golf, but the Secret Service is always 1 or 2 holes ahead of him. And so at some point, we're reading and getting reports that someone noticed the muzzle of a shotgun peep through the bush line. And at that point, we know shots were fired. The question right now remains, did the Secret Service open fire, or did the suspect who was behind that tree line, who hasn't been identified publicly yet, did that person open fire? Again, still more questions than answers, as this just took place at 1:30 Eastern Time. And the call came in to West Palm Beach authorities from the Secret Service as shots fired at the golf course. Again, we're continuing to monitor these live pictures from West Palm Beach, Florida, as the initial investigation is just getting underway. This also makes us think about what happened back on July 13th. That was the first failed assassination attempt against our 45th president. That one taking place at an outdoor rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. We all know, again, that a bullet grazed Donald Trump's ear. In this case, we don't know if shots were fired toward the former president or if the shots were fired from Secret Service agents who saw the suspicious activity within that tree line, and then they opened fire. At this point, it's still too early to tell. We do know that there is a press briefing happening behind the scenes right now. We have a team of producers here at Merritt Street who are monitoring that news conference to give us the very latest information. But the big headline right now is the FBI is now calling this an apparent assassination attempt on Donald Trump. So that's where we are at this hour. Again, there was a witness who saw the gunman running from that tree line, and at that point, he was quick enough to grab his cell phone. He took a picture of the vehicle that man jumped into, what's being described as a black Nissan, and he took a picture of the license plate. So at that point, authorities had everything they needed to figure out who apparently fired these shots. That's when they initiated the notification of spreading the information about the license plate tag number throughout the state of Florida. And nearby on I-95 in Martin County, they made a stop. They apprehended the suspect, and that's where we are this afternoon. One suspect has now been taken into custody. You see it here. He was in that black SUV. He was pulled over a short time after shots were fired earlier today at the golf course. We're told they're back at the scene. They found an AR-style rifle, 2 black backpacks, and also a witness was able to identify him based on the getaway car and the license plate. Live pictures from West Palm Beach here. You can see the golf course is lined with those tall palm trees and very high shrubs. And authorities say that that's where a lone gunman apparently poked a rifle, what's now being described as an AR-style rifle, through the tree line. And a witness, after hearing shots being fired, a witness saw a lone suspect run back to a black Nissan SUV and took off. That SUV, as you see here, was pulled over by local police because that witness was able to not only take a picture of the black SUV, but also took a picture of the license plate. And that information went out to authorities. I want to bring in Jonathan Gilliam now, former FBI agent, former Navy SEAL. Jonathan, talk to us about the way that authorities were able to use that information and quickly apprehend their man.
So they have these, I won't go into the great detail of it, but they have license plate readers all over this country. I think it's pretty common in most law enforcement agencies that work off the reflective nature of your license plate. And so once a BOLO goes out to be on the lookout for this, they can input that. And then as the cars go by, they can read all these license plates. Luckily for the Secret Service, they were able to get a license plate. I say Secret Service, but FBI and the locals as well. Everybody who's investigating a witness was able to get that license plate that the attempted shooter, attempted assassin got into, and they were able to quickly utilize those readers to find that vehicle and apprehend that subject, and then fly the witness there to identify this individual. I mean, remarkable how that worked out.
They've pulled him over I-95 in nearby Martin County. I believe that's due north of Palm Beach County. The suspect has now been identified, Jonathan, as Ryan Wesley Ralph. At this point in time, that's all the information we have. I don't know his age, don't know where he's from, don't know a potential motive. But of course, we know, as we got 30 seconds left, Jonathan, this comes on the heels of just 2 months ago, another failed assassination attempt on our former president.
Right. It's going to be very interesting if he falls into a political category, or if they start to investigate this individual and find nothing like they found a social media presence that had been scrubbed about the shooter in Pennsylvania. That will be very interesting as well.